strategy is a big plan. So, you consider first, you make a strategy. Then you decide what resources do you need to produce something. No? But sometimes when the directors, CEOs make a strategy, that strategy is driven by the resources that organization already have. Again, Fujifilm, we will talk about this case often. Fujifilm, camera film, and cosmetics. The transformation of the business, new businesses. Of course, when the CEO started this strategy, he didn't know the conclusion is a cosmetic. He still didn't know. But he knew that at least the new business should utilize the synergy from camera film. So the strategy itself to the cosmetic products, it was driven by the resources that they already have. Usually, if it's the company, rather bigger company, which was already established, the decisions is influenced heavily by the experiences that company already have. Another case, this is the case of Apple. Apple, now they produce iPhone. Before they had this kind of nanopod, right? They download the music and people could listen to the music. Now people can download the music and can listen to the music with their iPhone. But before iPhone was developed, they had this kind of products. Download the music and listen. And because they had experiences of this kind of products, what kind of resources they accumulated before they developed iPhone? For example, software programming capability, to make this device to download the music, they need some kind of software programming technologies. Also, attractive designing capability. This kind of design, they made this kind of design and it attracted many people. So Apple had some kind of capability for doing the attractive designing. Also, software distribution capabilities. They have some kind of network for distributing the softwares. And for example, Apple made a contract with some music label companies or other companies which can provide the software. They had such connection with such kind of companies. So that kind of software distribution capability was also the resources they had. Thinking about these resources, intangible asset they already accumulated, by the time they can produce this kind of nanopod, then Steve Jobs and his colleagues knew maybe it's possible to produce even the device like iPhone, which can be the hub of the network, digital network. This is a unique product with a unique concept, but they thought it is even possible to have this kind of products using the resources they already have. It's of course they need more development, but somehow it's possible. That is something that Steve Jobs and some others in Apple considered before the development of iPhone. So again, sometimes the strategy for making the unique products is driven by the resources they already acquired from the previous products. Okay? And I want to show you another case for such kind of strategy driven by the resources. This is a case of Honda. Honda, maybe many of you knows, they started their business producing this kind of motorcycle. And they started producing in the late 1940s. In 1958, they can produce this kind of motorcycle. And in 1961, they are already famous in motorcycle industry in the world because their motorcycle won the championship of this kind of motorcycle race in the world. Then, with these experiences, founder of Honda, Mr. Honda, declared that within a few years, Honda is going to produce 4-wheel car like this. It's a small truck, 4-wheel car, and Formula One racing car. But usually it's weird. Even before start producing the 4-wheel car, declaring that they will produce Formula One car, because the producing Formula One racing car, you need much more higher technology than producing ordinary 4-wheel car. But they declared at the same time, even before they start production of the car. And next year, they started producing the truck. Then after 2 years, they joined the Formula One racing car. And this made the world surprised. So many people were surprised in the world with this Honda's, the progress. And people thought it was a miracle. But for Mr. Honda, it was not miracle because they could produce good quality of motorcycle and they could win the motorcycle racing. So Mr. Honda knew that the technology for producing the good quality engine they already acquired, and producing and the technologies producing other good design of the motorcycle. Then with these technologies and knowledges and resources, he was sure they can produce 4-wheel car. And of course, if they can produce the good quality of engine, it is possible to produce a Formula One racing car. So that is why he declared the production of 2 kinds of car at the same time. And they really achieved it. So that is something also the strategy entering the Formula One racing car, but driven by the resources they already accumulated through the production of the motorcycle. That is the case of Honda. And do you know Honda now also produces this kind of airplane? Do you know that? You don't know?
I never know.
You never know. Since 2015, for more than 5 years, they produce this kind of airplane.
Wow.
And yes, and they decide to enter the production of airplane in the 1980s, several decades ago. And people thought, many people in the world thought it's almost impossible that car producers produce the airplane. Ordinary people thought it's impossible, but people in Honda thought it was possible. Why? Because these jet engines, they are sure they can develop this jet engine for airplane, because they could develop the engine for motorcycle, for the car, and also for the Formula One racing car. And with these experiences and these technologies they accumulated, they thought it's possible. That is why they set the strategy. In the end, after several decades, they produced the aircraft and they achieved it. So again, maybe your companies thinking about the resources you already accumulated. No, you can also think about something very high ideal image that you want to achieve. It's possible to achieve if you are sure that you can gradually accumulate more higher technologies with the current resources you already have. So that is the case of Honda and case of strategy driven by resources. Do you have any question about this? No? Okay, if not, this slide. Yes, Ms. Cantley.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
I just want to know strategy. How long we do strategy, or we say year by year, because I saw very long term.
You mean
yeah,
the time frame for the strategy?
Yeah, from motorcycle to airplane.
I see.
Yeah,
I see. Actually, my answer is it depends on your business. Suppose Fujifilm needed 20 years to transform the business. Why it needed so many years? Because Fujifilm was already the big company, large companies. And to change the structure of the business of the large enterprises, it needs time. That is why they needed 20 years. For other companies, if it's not large enterprises, maybe a small or medium enterprises, maybe you need less time. So in that case, not the strategy for 20 years. You can set the strategy for 10 years for the transformation, because the rather smaller company, it's not as hard as the large enterprises to change the structure of the businesses. If you own micro enterprise, maybe your strategy is for 5 years or 3 years, because it's not so difficult to change the business structure and organization structure. So again, there is no specific time frame for the strategy. It depends on your current size and your size of your business and the investment that you need for the transformation. And if it's smaller size, less time frame. Did I answer your question, Ms. Cantley?
Yes, but other way, I think if maybe now we produce bicycle, maybe in future we produce a motorcycle, and then we produce a bicycle.
Yes, of course. Suppose you are the company producing bicycle, and it's possible to have a strategy to transform your business from bicycle production to the car production. It's possible, but maybe the bicycle, they don't use any engine, right? Or these days, many cars use electric motor. So maybe it's, you need less time, but still you don't have any know-how of producing motors or batteries or other parts. So maybe you need at least 10 years to be able to produce the car, or 20 years. But if you already produce motorcycle with the engine or with a motor and battery, maybe you need only 5 years to be able to produce EV.
Yes, thank you. That's
What
it.
company do you work, Miss Kantali, or you work for the government?
Government.
A government.
Ministry of Public Work, yeah, and transport.
A Ministry of Public Works and Transport.
Yeah.
I see. Suppose your prime minister decide to transform or to restructure the ministries and change the structure of the Ministry of Public Works and Transport, or maybe he or she decide to include different kind of business in your ministries, then
Yes.
you will think, how many years do you need to transform the works of your ministries?
Yes, you know well about ministry now.
I don't know well about the Ministry of Transport and Public Works, but in Laos, but
Yeah.
yes.
Now we restructure the ministry.
Oh, really?
Yeah, already.
Are you going to include the new kind of new area in the ministries, or how do you restructure?
We involve many department together for make a small organization, but I have to work any more work something.
Small organization. What do you mean? Make small organization.
A staff can do many work, not only one work. Yeah. Understand? Yes.
I'm not sure if I understand.
We restructure organization of ministry.
Yes.
Yeah.
I see.
Many department come to one department, like ministry, department of finance and department of planning join together for one.
I see. So reduce the number of the ministries, and one ministry have more functions and roles.
Yeah.
I see. Okay. In that case, maybe the things just to combine the functions of two ministries. But when two organizations get together, usually each organization had their way for the operation. So these two operations doesn't work in harmony. And how to have a common operation procedures so that two different procedures go together. It's the most difficult part for the transformation of the organization. Okay, thank you. And for the resource fit, this is the summary. Again, first, we talk about the strategy. It needs the resources for the execution of the strategies, and that resources, basically there are two kinds, tangible and intangible resources. And we think about effective use of resources, especially in this case, effective use of tangible resources, tangible assets. And we talked about complement effect and synergy in diversification. And also we talk about efficient accumulation of resources. In this case, mainly intangible assets, but sometimes even for the tangible assets, direct accumulation, you just pay and you acquire. But for the intangible assets, mainly it's the indirect accumulation through your operation, learning by doing. And lastly, we talk about the strategy driven by the resources accumulated in the past. So that is a summary of the resource fit. Okay, do you have any questions? No question? Okay, 10 minutes left for today. I just wondered if I should start talking with the new material or not. Maybe I will stop now, but I will not talk about this material for day 6 tomorrow. Okay, but don't worry, I will finish all the material by the 8th day. And 9th day, as I announced, we have a special session for the Japanese corporate management. Okay, and one before we